Hello everyone, VanguardOfValor here and welcome to the Sunless Sea. We've arrived here at an island bathed in sunlight. Strange. Maybe we should investigate further, and so we shall. A great beam of sunlight bathes the island. We squint into the dazzle far above. There's a hole in the roof. In that light we see beaches of white gold sand, trees heavy with bright fruit, the reds and blues and greens of the surface. Interesting. Let's compile a report. Quickly, indeed. Our eyes water, the pages blur. The report is one of joy-filled complaint. Aestival has a beauty too bright to be appreciated, but perhaps the Admiralty can find something of use. We can attempt to gather supplies here, or go beachcombing. We can attempt to fill our mirror catch box, although that may not go well for us. We can investigate the ruins as well. For now, let us investigate the ruins. There was some sort of installation here, and what looks like a handsome country house. Who was here, and what happened to them? A garden overgrown with berry bushes. A wooden trestle table set for a meal. Chairs strewn with bones, a half-dozen skeletons. A red-breasted bird perches on a grinning cranium. It cocks an eye at us and bursts into song, a liquid, thrilling sound. It seems unperturbed as we approach to poke through the bones. No signs of violence, no fire, no bullets, no bites. These people died peacefully, sitting down to breakfast, as the surface sunlight spilled over them. Sunlight can kill at any time. The longer we remain here, the more danger we're in, so why did they stay? Perhaps they stayed because Aestival is beautiful as anywhere in the Neath and 10 times as generous. It's a fine place for a colony. We could found our own pocket kingdom, if we could do something about the sun. But what? What has power over sunlight? What makes the impossible possible? We've gained a memory of distant shores, and we know if to bring something to Aestival that can protect against sunlight if we wish to found a colony here. Let us attempt to fill a mirror catch box and see what happens. We snap it shut. The box will remain filled with light until it's opened, even underground. They do it with mirrors. We have one sunlight-filled mirror catch box now. That could be a great deal of echoes in the making. But we do, of course, no longer have our empty mirror catch box for the mechanic's desires. We'll have to sell our sunlight somewhere. For the time being, we'll go beachcombing and see what we find. If we're lucky, we might pick up treasures. More likely, we'll pick up bits of wood and the occasional interesting arthropod. Do we find driftwood, something glinting, or a nasty glob of glue? Goo, in fact. Let's go for something glinting. Just bottle glass. But there's a message in the bottle. A page from a journal. The writer has described a debauched afternoon in thrilling detail. Who threw this into the sea? Was it some botched attempt at blackmail, or a love affair gone sour? Well, we've gained 60 fragments for our trouble. There's of course nothing here. For now, we head onwards. From a beautiful, sunlit land, back into the darkness of the Sunless Sea. What awaits us out here? It's difficult to tell. Without exploring further, who knows what may lie beyond? Another one of those spiny creatures. We are not desirous to encounter them, if at all possible. We found the Azaquoric Abyss, however. What else lies out here? No islands, according to our Z-Bat. But terrible, terrible monstrosities can exist this far from fallen London, where things are much less well known. Still, we seek. Seek the unknown. Saviour's rocks lie a long way to the south, apparently. But we've discovered the Nativity. And a horrible, horrible island, coated in spiders. Let us make dock temporarily. The sound of their constant motion is like pebbles on a beach. The glumness of the nativity is broken by the reds and golds of freshly hung banners. Spider-worshipping weavers and widows guide the traders in readying their celebration of gratitude to their generous neighbors that silently watch over them from the shadows. We can trade supplies for silk here. The fine silk of Saviour's rocks is the most coveted in the Neath. There can be no better time to acquire some without the usual trader's markup. We can compile a port report if we had wine, but we do not. We can now make a delivery of trinkets. An almost entirely legitimate silk trader urgently requests our help with a delivery to fall in London. Or we can put a Blumbagin ashore and see how it survives on this island of spiders. We also have a haunted doctor here who deeply wishes to leave this place. I think we will take him. We don't have a surgeon, and a surgeon would be a good thing indeed. Let us take him on board. The haunted doctor hurries aboard the ship. He pauses, looking at the cursed wasteland of Saviour's rocks. The lady said I would never be able to get it back once it was thrown away. I see she was... Never mind. Is this my cabin? Yes, it is more than I deserve. We have a new officer. Excellent. A surgeon, the haunted doctor. It gives us a doctor aboard, which might help. It also gives us more hearts and more pages. Let us assign him to his role. Now our crew is complete at last. We had helped them prepare for this festival of silk. They will allow us to purchase supplies and fuel at great cost. I think we'll help them with their festival preparations. I have no idea what this will do, but we'll see. The traders of the Nativity have little practice showing appreciation, but at least put in an effort. In particular, they are not entirely accidentally let slip the secret of the Accord of Grace, a hospitality granted by visitors to the generous neighbors of whom they will speak no ill. They do, however, hint that this only applies to travelers arriving through the port. Those unlucky enough to run aground on the rocks can consider themselves... But no, a sorrow spider might hear something they would, of course, never say. Well then. Those who arrive by port can apparently do much here, but for now I think it is safest for us to not investigate too much further. A dangerous potential awaits us there, and so we set sail yet again. We'll return here in the future, most certainly, to learn what else lies on these islands of spiders. But evidently this is not the time. Simply not the time. Can we pass beneath the webs? Or will we be strung up in them? Let us discover. We can pass beneath. Lucky us. The Gant pole is a long way to the south. Well, we can experiment there next, as we pass through this horrible spider-filled sea. Horrible indeed. But, as of yet, not actively hostile. We sail southerly, in the hopes of finding new ports, new discoveries with which to return with tales to home. We've discovered the Gaunt Pole. And a great, great skeleton as well. The carcass of some colossal beast. As we follow around the ribs, we find Shableport. A horrible, horrible place. The Chinet, indeed. The bones. Oh, the bones. But we land at the Chinet. Waves lap the slabby sides of a vast turtle shell, bigger than any cathedral. Well, well. We can obtain a doomed monster hunter with a captivating treasure. The Chinet is stiff with monster hunters, awash with the pelican juices that give them strength. A good number of them are doomed, too, but we'll need to provide for their families. We can put a Blemmigan ashore here, compile a port report, or investigate tales for the bone. Let us compile our port report first. No matter what details we try to record, the stench creeps in around the edges of the sentences. The Chilenites watchful despite the reek. Movement among the miasmic scraps of long-abandoned monster carcass. Frequent duels where the stink is thickest. What else can we do here? Tales for the bone, you say. We follow the sound. We could pay the chronicler to inscribe a Z-story onto a hunting trophy, and we'll receive an outlandish artifact. Unfortunately, we have a Z-story and the supplies, but we do not have a hunting trophy. Such it is. The shops here, at Uncle Ankle's lean place, offer to sell Mount Nomad's heart. In the depths of the mountain lay a great egg of smooth gold. Once every hour it pulses with slow and deadly life. If memory serves, we require the heart of Mount Nomad. We need a searing enigma to make the trade. No, that's not true. We can't buy it here, we can only sell it for a searing enigma. That would not serve us well at all. Not serve us well at all. Well then, it looks as though this place is not in fact of use to us at this time. We could take a risk to put our men ashore, but I have a feeling they would not survive. As such, we leave the Chinet with the knowledge of a most disturbing realm. And on we travel. Our fuel supplies are still plentiful, although we've come a long way around the world. We venture into the deep south of the Sunless Sea, leaving this turtle shell alone. And we immediately discover Saka Town, an unusual small place on a smaller shell, but with, of course, nowhere to dock. Onwards we go, hoping for new mysteries and new discoveries along the way. The Sea of Statues is some distance to the south. Well, of course, we'll go investigate then. The sea is dark and full of terrors. And it is to that dark and terrible sea that we go now. We found a strange place, with another glorious dreadnought from which we must immediately flee. We are far too damaged to be able to take advantage of combat with such a terrible foe. And so, we flee for our lives. Around a great amphitheater. Careful not to touch the edges of the world, because who knows what would happen if we sail beyond the marked reaches of the Sunless Sea. We discover Patak's fury, and hope to skirt its edges. without being pulled below the waves. King Eater's castle stands above us here, as does Banning Bluff to our south. Let us attempt to enter this place. Hopefully, our foe will have left. We've discovered King Eater's castle in the Sea of Statues. And in we go. We've discovered Pennington. Well, well. Echoes stalk us through the colonnades. An old veracity lives here, in the far reaches of the Zee. Which god holds sway here? Storm, stone, salt? Perhaps no god that is elsewhere named, but if we feed it, it will calm our mind. A supply and a fuel to reduce our terror. We can lose our mind, offer our thoughts at the altar. Do not do this, as it says. We can eat our crew. Not all of them will go easily. Do not do this. This will destroy all our crew and any human or near-human officers. The struggle will wound or even kill us. We can offer our stories. All of them. What is one more departure amongst so many? This may take us elsewhere, at the cost of all our Z stories. Choose it only if we are desperate to be somewhere else. Well, well, well. We could put a Blemmigan ashore. It's quivering here. We could compile a port report as well. Silence. Desolation. The sense of an impending and terrible mistake. Everything is horrible. It's not really an appropriate title for a formal report, is it? Let's find something a little more clinical. Well then. Perhaps it is time to leave this horrible castle. We may return here in the future. But for now, we seek to leave with our lives. Although we are utterly trapped. Do not notice us, glorious dreadnought. It is time for you to move on, so that we may escape. Docking will not protect us from ravages of this foe. We risk a terrible death here. Our terror rises, as does our hunger, as the glorious dreadnought sits, blocking the path. Perhaps we will be lucky, and will be able to sneak past as it turns its back to us. We must flee with all possible speed, however. And we have not made it out safely, but perhaps we can escape unseen. Yes. Yes, fate has smiled on us today, and we have escaped the terrors below. A sailor has run mad. She roams the ship, cudgel in hand, smashing comrades to the deck. She cries, "He is angry! Oh, he is angry!" We can shoot her dead. It's the only safe thing to do. She's already killed one man. We can capture her alive, or we can talk her down. As it stands, shooting her dead is the only safe option. A sailor has run mad, and now they are dead. Our sailor's weapons roar, and down she goes. We recite a hasty funeral for the poor soul and her wretched victim. But who will be next? We've lost Storm's attention. We've lost 2 crew. Not a good situation to be in at all. We can no longer travel at maximum speed, which is not a good situation to be in at this time. We must slowly travel the sea now, without increasing the rate at which we use our fuel. Well then. Now we are truly in trouble. The Sea of Statues still lies to the north, but we need to find somewhere where we could perhaps take someone on board. Otherwise, this looks very grim indeed. We are far too slow to make any great haste. As we crawl back towards civilization, wondering whether our hunger or the deeps will kill us first. We have to hope for the best. Oh no. We approach Varchas, the mirrored city. Perhaps we do, but those beasts to the north will keep us away. Oh no. We turn off our lights, and we do our best to flee, because these monsters will destroy us. The milliner bats are not a foe we wish to face right now, especially not so weak as we are. Thankfully, we seem to have lost their attention. Turning off the lights has saved us from a grim fate. Whew. We've discovered Port Erdonmez and Varchas. The danger of the Z presses on our minds. Let us enter the mirrored city and see what it has in store for us. Perhaps we'll be able to acquire new crew or lose some of our terror. A good thing indeed. The mirrored city, where light was always the law. The walled city of Varchas is a tangle of green vines and luminescent fungal flowers slow blooming around moldering stone. A quincunx of carved, stepped towers rise over the city, rise over walls, and pour burning white light into the bleak sky. A rough shadowed path leads from the docks to the mirrored gates of Varchas. Two towering carved stone lamps throw their light on the angled mirrors, and a blue-cloaked guard stands in the reflected pool of light. The city is a beacon against the tree-hushed, sprawling darkness of the Elder Continent. In the far distance, a vast mountain glitters. We can choke on the smell. If the sailors wave us over, we can ask the guard a few questions, tell the guard we wish to enter, put a Blemmigan ashore, or compile a port report. Let's do that first, as the Admiralty will of course want to know. We tone down the details of the light and its brilliance. We don't want to inspire envy in the Admiralty's staff. What else do we do here, however? Let us say that the sailors wave us over. They're sitting on some upturned crates on the docks, playing a game with mirrored chips and stylized snakes made of bone. You're not thinking of going in there? The sailors gawk at us in unconcealed horror. They tell us the gruesome stories of Varchas, which they no doubt invented whole cloth. Some are convinced the Varchasi render sailors into tallow to light their city. Others say they steal shadows and sell them to their masters. All of them are convinced that they blind any strangers who dare to gaze long upon their city's secrets. We're just waiting to be paid and then we're off, one of the sailors says, nervously fingering a mirror chip. I've only got one eye left and I'd like to keep it. We choke on the smell. The flowers have waxy leaves, which leave powdery traces on our fingers. The light coming from the city has the same camphorous quality, and the smell, perfume worn too many days on the body, unread books left to turn into ink-stained pulp, a garden drowned and rotting in still water. Let's ask the guard a few questions. Never a bad idea to gather a little intelligence before heading into unknown waters, or cities, as the case may be. The blue-cloaked guard only acknowledges our existence when we step out of the darkness of the path and into the light from the lamps. The guard stands in the middle of the pool of light, looking warily at the darkness beyond us. Up close, the guard's blue cloak is threadbare and mossy along the hem. A pattern of embroidered suns runs along the collar, but the gold thread is dull. The kohl around her eyes is smudged. "Well, Tomas," she asks, "are you going to ask your questions, or are you just going to stare?" Her tone is brusque, but her expression is curiously eager. We do not think Varchas receives many visitors. Our name is not Tomas, we correct her politely. The guard looks scandalized and tries to stop her ears. All those who are not Varchasi are Tomas. You have been touched by darkness, and it has taken your name. She fixes us with an admonishing look and adds, It is very ill-mannered to pretend you still have one. We begin to see, a little, why Varchas is not often visited. It looks like we will have to get used to being called Tamas if we wish to enter. We ask about the light. It all seems a bit wasteful, possibly even ostentatious. We must always walk in Mihir's light, so we burn our lamps night and day to banish darkness from the mirrored city, she tells us proudly. If we let darkness corrupt us, we would not be Varchasi any longer, but Tamas, like you. We wonder, is that so terrible a fate? Her mocking laugh answers us even before her words do. Yes, it would be terrible indeed, Tamas, and before you ask, she adds, no, I do not have any desire to leave Varchas. The rest of the Neath has fallen from Mihir's grace, and I have no wish to join them. Ask about her job. Does she like her job? It is a great honor to guard the mirrored gates, she snaps defensively. She gestures to the edge of the pool of light illuminating her post. It is very dangerous. Even a small stumble and I could fall into the dark. Her voice goes thready. I would be banished from Mihir's grace. I would lose my name. That is why they only send the bravest outside the walls. Well then, let's ask about the city's customs. Don't touch the mirrors. Don't even look into the mirrors, she says, her voice hard, and try very hard not to dream. Were you expecting something along the lines of don't murder anything, or only wear red on special occasions? Still, we nod and smile. We have no more questions. She looks disappointed, but does not try to engage us further. Let's ask the guard if we can enter. She makes a mark in her ledger before ringing a brass bell. The mirrors of the gates rearrange to give us space to pass, but never once allow shadow to touch the guard. Our ways are not yours, Tamas. Remember that, and walk in the light of Mihir. Well, we've entered a strange place indeed. Our eyes are blinded by the brilliance of the light. The verdant rot smell is even thicker. The heat of so much flame and reflected light presses oppressively against our skin. Our head pounds. It is a few minutes before our eyes adjust and we can look around. Brass lamps and gilded sconces hang from every wall, and phosphorescent fungus grows moss-like upon doorways and ceilings. Cunningly arranged mirrors catch every droplet of light and diffuse it until each cobblestone and rampart of the city is drenched and blazing and utterly without shadow. Who do we speak to? There's a fire-keeper, a white-cloaked guard, a fungus carter, a jewel-turbaned youth. Let us discuss with the fire-keeper. Dressed all in saffron, a thick pair of fireproof gloves dangle from a silver chain at her waist. Dressed all in saffron. I'm too important to play guide to you, Tamas, she tells us before we even open our mouth. I'm the keeper of the Western Principal Mirror. She points up at the enormous, multifaceted mirrors set atop each of the city's 5 towers. I'm only here because I'm looking for my idiot brother. He's probably busy pouring wine down some pretty dark-eyed boy's throat in a tavern. Is it a matter of great urgency, we wonder? He's late for his lamp checks in the Sacred District, is her terse reply as she hurries away. If the Agni Hattori found out, he'd be lucky to end up a lake dredger. Well, we've gained a memory of distant shores, but the first tower bell has sounded. Let's investigate the white-cloaked guard. The suns embroidered on his cloak are picked out with gold thread, and the edge is jeweled with carnelian. Tamas, he presses his hands together in greeting, then gives us an anguished look. You look terrible. Are you sick with a terrible outsider's disease? Or is that what your nose is naturally like? Over our protestations, he gives us directions to the hospital. Oh, the medics are all butchers, to be sure, but they walk in the light of Mihir, he adds breezily, and then points out the guardhouse in the vague direction of the Temple of Mihir, and a street of bars and gaming houses. We don't want to get a reputation for being inhospitable. He laughs as if he's made a grand joke, and we laugh along weakly. Well, we can discuss with the jewel-turbaned youth, then. Is he winking at us, then at a furtive wink, or a flirtatious one? Only way to find out. He looks utterly overjoyed to make our acquaintance, the bangle on his wrist flashing as he presses his hands together in greeting. My friends and I would be honored if you would attend a small gathering with us, Tamas. We are so eager to hear about the world outside Varchas' city walls. It seems an innocuous enough invitation, but then why does his gaze dart around so anxiously as he tells us how to find his mansion in the Eastern District? Time to venture further than the Outer District. Mirrored City gleams invitingly. We'll get used to the smell in time. Entertainments, lots of things here. After the 5th bell, each Tomas is assigned a room at the inn. Interesting. We can make a pilgrimage to Amaradri, but we would need a lot of respect to be able to do that. What about entertainment in Varchas, or perhaps in the hospital? The hospital lies in the shadow of the southern tower. Let's investigate. Are we feeling a little fevered? Do we hope to learn medical secrets? Or perhaps we just enjoy the moans and flushed faces of the sick and suffering? Interesting. The fungal infections ward. We can investigate that. The mirrorless room. This ward is locked several times over, and the dour-faced nurse looks uncomfortable when we mention it. We could attempt to help ourselves, but we're not very well skilled in these kinds of things. If we wish to earn the desire, the approval of the dour-faced nurse, we'll need to help, but unfortunately we don't have the appreciation of the haunted doctor yet, or brisk campaigner, so we don't have the ability to help in that manner. Let us simply investigate the open ward today. We'll have to come back here in the future, I suspect. Most of these wounds happened outside the city, on hunting expeditions or trade missions, the dour-faced nurse explained severely, raising her voice, which is why most of these maligners are guards. The patient nearest to her pretends to swoon. But what would I do away from your gentle, tender gaze, O fair nurse? He clasps his hands to his bosom. Surely I would wither and perish. We'll see who withers who when I give you your sponge bath, she retorts, and her patient draws up his blankets meekly, although his mouth still curves up in a smile. What else can we investigate here? I don't think anything else is of interest to us right now. We'll return to the city center and explore elsewhere. What about the mansion of the jewel-turbaned youth, perhaps? Who knows what happens here? Or the guardhouse? Down a side street we can see a sun-blazoned flag. We follow the stream of white cloaks. A modest stone building with bas-relief lintels and wide, unshuttered windows. The stylized sun of Mihir floats from a silk flag above the portico. It is a scene of controlled chaos. We can see the white-cloaked guards bustling to and fro within, shouting companionably to each other while the stream of fungus carters, merchants, and ordinary citizens petition them. We can ask what's going on here. We can ask if the guards have some advice. We don't have a dream of smoke, however. We can hint at the jewel-turbaned youth's activities. We can live over the bit we told the gathering a forbidden story and glide over naming any particular names. That's interesting, because we haven't done that yet. We can train with the guards at a modest challenge here. A 66% chance of success. Let us attempt it. Aha. The sergeant does not object when we slip into line, but he doesn't treat us with any particular gentleness either. We practice hand-to-hand combat for a few hours and end up on our back more often than not. They fight in an unfamiliar, light-footed style. A few of the more advanced recruits duel with curving, twin-bladed scimitars. Interesting, the sergeant grunts at the end of our session. We're bruised and possibly concussed, but quite satisfied with our morning, and we think they may have learned something in turn. We gain 2 iron, and we have the respect of the guard. Interesting. For now, we'll leave here. Or no, let's ask what's going on here. We are preparing for the pilgrimage to Amaradri, the Mountain of Light, a young guard tells us, stamping yet another merchant's application. It always turns into a bit of a festival. Everyone wants permission to go, and so they come to harangue us when the sun priests turn them away. Is it a religious pilgrimage? Well, a bit, she makes a face. Every merchant in the city suddenly becomes very devoted to me here when pilgrimage season comes, anyway. Well, we can't do that now, but for now we will explore elsewhere. We have another memory of distant shores, another fragment. And it is now evening. We can't do anything else in the city here. We'll have to rest in the inn. The light is endless and merciless. Will we sleep? Options continue. All visitors to Varchas are given 1 night's accommodation in the city's only inn. It is a handsome stone mansion arranged on a pleasantly cool courtyard. Frescoes of city life are painted on the walls. Given how few visitors Varchas hosts, we suspect the inn is more usually used by philandering locals. Evening falls, or does it? The town's 5 principal mirrors are mounted on coiled spring mechanisms and alter their angles subtly to create the impression of evening. Across the city, the firekeepers throw pinches of colored powder into the lamps, and the quality of light yellows to a softer brightness. There's a wine-mazed lamplighter here, dressed in saffron robes, and is indeed pouring wine down the throat of a very attractive dark-eyed boy. We could tell him the sisters are looking for him. The smells of cooking mingle with the fungus rot. We won't let that put us off our food, perhaps. We can sleep here. We can not sleep here. But we can go to the courtyard here. First, let us deal with this wine-mazed lamplighter. He sits up in horror, spilling burgundy red wine everywhere. His young companion looks irritated. "I'm late," he shouts. "Mihir, forgive me. The Agni Hattori is going to skin me alive." He pumps our hand in gratitude. "Thank you, Tomas. I won't forget this. Here, take my arc jewels." We've gained 3 outlandish artifacts, a great reward for that simple task, and he runs off. Well, we can head into the kitchens, with a 91% chance of success, although we're not particularly hungry. We can head into the courtyard with an 80% chance of success. Let us attempt that. Cushions are arrayed around the marble fountain in the middle. Musicians pluck their instruments under the shade of the twisted yellow-leafed trees. Their songs are curiously prosaic, the lyrics more like a biographical report than a poetic invention. We listen to the lake dredger's waterlogged, lotus-rooted dirge. We sway to the slow, steady ballad of the fungus collectors, and join in the lamplighter's quick-footed dance which mimics their evening rounds. The evening finishes with the song of Mihir, which is sung to the accompaniment of stringed instruments and drums and polished glass prisms, which split the white light into rainbows in counterpoint to the notes. We've gained 5 more fragments. It is time to sleep, though there is no darkness in Varchas. We've lost 2 terror. We've succeeded in our mirror's challenge and gained 3 more memories of distant shores. We can sleep or not sleep. The lack of rest will take its toll, but we may gain a dream of smoke if we sleep here. Do we attempt to not sleep? Our life is already at risk here, with our low resources. I think we attempt to avoid sleeping. Aha. Up late, reading, thinking, watching. The shouts from the streets die as Varchas sleeps, but we're tired the next morning. We've gained 5 terror, but we've succeeded in our heart's challenge. It is time to leave. Outsider time in Varchas is strictly rationed. Each morning at dawn, the guard visits the inn to eject any Tomas they find. They are polite, but very definite. Into the dark. Return, the guard tells us, but not yet. With that, they usher us into the darkness beyond the walls. We blink mirror dazzles from our eyes. It's cold out here. And that's all. All we can do. Nowhere to acquire more crew. Well, this may be a challenge indeed, then. Thank you for watching, everyone. This has been Vanguard of Valor, playing some more Sunless Sea for you. If you've enjoyed our voyages into the deep sea, let me know about them in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, bye-bye.